a little too noisy inside. Got some little ones, so okay. All right, the link you sent me was not very clear at all. So, how about now? Okay, now this is kind of like campfire talk to me, so I don't take anything personal. I mean, if it gets personal, I'll just hang up. I don't take it too serious. So, what do you have? What? Yeah, for evidence, scientific evidence. I believe that's what I was most the positive claim, living on a sphere. I thought that's what we were going back and forth on. Let's try to. I'll try to interrupt as little as possible, but let's try to stick with one, and then we can kind of move on once that's kind of out of the way or discussed or eclipses. Tell me how they tell me how they are scientific evidence of spirit. So, okay, how would you form that in your hypothesis? How would you structure that? If Earth sphere eclipse, you know, in other words, how would you word that into a valid scientific syllogism? Okay. I got the observed. Yes, exactly. I've got your observed phenomenon. Yes. I, I thought this was proving sphere Earth. I'm just wondering why we're bringing in a completely different subject if we're trying to prove one thing. Validate, validate cause and effect. Yes. Science. Okay. How did you validate? How did they validate cause and effect with the eclipse? How did they validate cause and effect with the eclipse? Okay. A little more specific though. Okay, but we're still in the observation though. We've moved past that. Yeah. We're, sure. I can create a curved shadow with a flat object and a light source in 10 minutes. You don't need a curved surface to create a sphere to create a curved shadow. That's just false. Anybody can do this on their own. But what I'm pointing out is what you're doing is still theorizing. You haven't validated the claim using science, in other words. That's what I'm asking you specifically. We've established the phenomenon. We have a natural occurring phenomenon. It's legit. We haven't made it. It's not man-made. Now we have to move on to the validation part, and the only way that I know of is through the experimental phase, right? I mean, everything else is just theoretical. If if P therefore Q, if Q therefore P. If I lived on a ball, I would see this. I see this, so I must live on a ball. That's not scientific. It's just a formological fallacy called affirming the consequence. We want to validate the cause and effect. How did we do that? Right. Have you ever heard? Sorry, we got a lag on both ends. Have you ever heard of a selenium eclipse? Selenium, where they're both above the horizon, and the reason for that is we're told is that the right. Okay, right. So it's not really there. No, no, I get where you're going. It's an illusion. The actual object is not there. But but we're kind we're kind of getting off subject again. You said the data from logic and reasoning, and I'm thinking instead of logic and reason, we get it from dependent and independent and the null. I mean, isn't that our try that we've been using in science and medicine for hundreds and hundreds of years? Yeah, the independent variable being no, to validate cause and effect. We're talking about science. This is basic fifth grade science. What did you vary and manipulate? What was the presumed cause of the effect? In other words, the independent variable. Wait a minute. Hold on. Real quick. Observation. So I thought we moved past the observation part and we're into the validation part. You're still saying it's an observation. Oh, okay. So we haven't validated any claims yet. But I explained it. But I explained I I I explained how that's a formal logical fallacy. How do you not disagree? You disagree that that is? If P, therefore Q. If Q, therefore P. If I lived on a ball, I would see this effect. Ah, that effect happened, so I must live on a ball. That's not scientific. That is not scientific. Well, but it would be the same as you coming up with a hypothesis. We're not validating anything. That's like asking me to come up with another story. I don't want stories. No. Mm, okay, then we're into theoretical science. So we're into theoretical science now, not experimental science. But you theorize. Yeah, but we're still theorizing. When are we going to move into? When do we move into the experimental phase and validating cause and effect? But you came up with step one, which was your naturally occurring natural phenomenon. I give you that. Now we move on to validating cause and effect. After your hypothesis, yeah. After the hypothesis, all right. No, I accept I accept the hypothesis. What I'm waiting for is the IV. Let me finish. Let me finish. What I'm waiting for is the IVDV relationship. You haven't given it. Cause it. There's no independent variable. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Then we're not conducting experimental science where we validate cause. We're going to theorize, and at that point, we can spend an hour here theorizing. It's not going to prove anything. So I think we've reached the conclusion. You are theorizing, and I'm asking for validation of claims, and we're not on the same page. No. I pointed out that you keep bringing up a different model to prove your model, and that's not logical either. In other words, that's like me bringing something completely out of the subject to prove what I'm theorizing. That nobody's brought up that subject. I haven't. I've never made a claim. I claimed what? Oh, yeah. I did. Yeah, you were claiming the shape of a. You were. Oh, I'm glad. You were claiming the shape of the shadow on the moon proves your hypothesis, and you're so far off the mark. I easily told you that a flat object could create a curved shadow on a sphere like that. Do you doubt that? Do you doubt that? So, scientific evidence and observation, not scientific evidence. You're stuck at the observation. That's you can't move past that. And by the way, you know they've been accurately predicting eclipses for thousands of years, right? Way before this model was ever. Yeah. So that's proof of it's not proof of the shape of the Earth. I just asked, what your best scientific evidence was, and you gave me an observation. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Mayan. I thought you were talking about the Mayan or the Hindu or the Aztec or all the other ancient Egyptians or the Hebrew or the countless other ancient civilizations that had a different model than your body. You meant the ancients. I didn't know you were just going back as far as the Greek. That that's very. You keep cutting out. Experimental, yes, experimental. That's the part we're missing now is the experimental part. It's just at an observation and a presupposition. That's where we're at. Back back. No, that's not an experiment. That's an observation. What was what what was the observed phenomenon in the Cavendish experiment? No, no. Where was mass? Where did we see a giant boulder or a bowling ball attract a pebble? When do we see this mass attracting mass? So so it's a man. No, no. I got you. It's a man-made. So it's a man-made. It's a man-made phenomenon. So, so the phenomenon. Okay, science is the study of the physical and natural world. When do we see these pendulums swinging in nature as we're walking along the beach or in the woods? Oh, because it's man-made phenomenon. You had to conjure. You conjure. You brought up. You brought up. You brought up the subject, and I'm asking you what your was your and I asked what was your natural phenomenon. Yeah, I got you. I got you. I was momentarily confused with Coriolis effect and also the Cavendish. I listen. You're gonna have to listen a little bit closer. You got to let me speak a little bit. I just apologize for momentarily mistaking the two. That's all. Yeah, one is about reference frames, and the other is about mass attracting man. But what I asked was the phenomenon that you brought up, which was Cavendish. Where do we see mass attracting mass in our natural daily life? When did we see? When do we? So we see it by just knowing that things have a downward. Effect. That's it. But that wasn't my question. I asked what the phenomenon was. What did he see? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm not going. Okay. Okay. You keep thinking that a downward force, okay, is your scientific evidence for living on a sphere. I don't know how we got here, but I was on a shadow, which was your first point, and I said, so we're stuck on the observation, and I guess we never cleared that up because now we're on to something completely different. But the shadow, of course, I'll agree with that. Of course. No, no. Of course it does. Of course it does. Then you're into theoretical science. If you're into, if, then you're not doing experimental science. The scientist, the observer, has to manipulate the independent variable, the presumed cause of the effect. How else do you think this is? This isn't just me coming up with something new. This is basic fifth grade. So, other than your observation with the shadow, you've got a presupposition and nothing more. You keep cutting out. You're lagging. I don't know if it's. Can you either cut off? I don't know if you're on a Bluetooth or speaker, but wow, yeah, it's terrible. But anyway, we can't seem to get past no reason to apologize. I don't think we can get past the shadow as scientific evidence. And that's where I'm at. So I don't think either one of us are going to change that. What I believe as far as validating. Well, when I asked you for scientific evidence, you gave me a curved shadow on. That's not that is, but it's, oh, okay. Go with tides. I think you brought up tides, or was that? Could have been somebody else. I mean, I'm going to ask you the same questions regarding tides. How do you validate the cause and effect? Basically, you have theory. Nothing has been proven or validated through the experimental phase. Nothing. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So you're forming another formal logical fallacy without any proof again. Hey, I see this. It must be this. That's not scientific. Yeah. I could come up with 1,000. There's minion fairies that suck the water up. I mean, it's just another story without any kind of validation. Yeah, you just got a story that you're comfortable with. Yeah, you're not validating cause of any effect. I'm not comfortable with I'm not comfortable with the moon. You see what I'm saying? Unless you can validate it, I might be open to it. Really, cite the experiment. Cite the experiment. This is ancient information. This is ancient information. We've known tides and eclipses. We were able to calculate all these things for thousands of years. You're not providing. Oh, of course you do. They could read the ripples and travel great distances. No, that's not cool. Hold on. The Polynesians were navigating thousands of miles using wave patterns. So they vary quite a bit from all over. In other words, the tides are very tides are very mysterious. No one knows the direct cause. Tides are very mysterious. And here's what I think the big problem is with a lot of people. They think everything's been figured out. Everything's been figured out. We know it all. We don't know the cause of tides. You can only make a presupposition. You'll never be able to validate it. That's where we're at with the shadow on the moon. I don't think I mean, we could go on to other ones, but again, we're always going to fall back to the same thing: observations, opposed to what I'm asking for, which is the empirical method that's been used for thousands of years. Yeah, I agreed with that before. I said that you have the first step. Have a no, that, that's not the next step. The next step is to get your presumed cause of the effect established. That's the IV, the independent variable, the one that needs to be manipulated and controlled by the observer to conduct science to validate cause and effect. I think we're at an impasse. No offense to you. You seem like a very nice guy, but when two minds just completely disagree, see, I call it presuppositions and not validating cause and effect, and you call it the most likely answer. That's what I'm getting, basically. Well, what else could it be? That's not science. But I do. Great, great. Come up with those theories. No. Time out, time out. All I did was say that it doesn't take a sphere to create a curved shadow. That was my point. Because you were giving the curved shadow on the moon as definitive proof that we live on a sphere. And when all I did was point out that any object can create a curved shadow on a curve. I just said any other object can make a curved shadow on a sphere. It doesn't have to be a disc. It could be a triangle. It could be a square. It could be so you keep going back.
Right, a curved one, because you can create curved shadows with many different objects. Like I've said, you can try this. But again, we're not getting into validating. We've only got about 5 minutes, so I think we're not going to go through anything new. I'm looking for validation of cause and effect. You're kind of in the theoretical realm. I don't think we're really going to solve this in 5 minutes, but I do appreciate your time and your politeness. I mean, other than, you know, fair enough. I was, but I damaged my knee. I've got a lot of screws and plates in my kneecap, so those days are over. Had a BMW K 1200. It was too much bike for me. But I do thank you again. Like I said, we got a few minutes, and yeah, I think those are our main impasses. But I wish more people would do this and repost, because it's kind of senseless on that side. It just goes back and forth and insult and then you kind of. I admit I even fall into it after a while too. But geez, man, the actual discussion is very rare there, at least in typing form. So again, thank you again. Uh, what state are you in, by the way? What state are you in? Missouri. All right. Good to see you. All right. All right. You take care.